Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at, and welcome to today's webinar, 2025 State of Utility Rebates for LED Controllers and Dehumidification. Thank you everyone for your patience. I'm Tony Lang with Cannabis Business Times. In today's event, experts from HydroFarm and WhatRebate will walk us through the ins and outs of securing the maximum rebates for LED lighting, HVAC, and dehumidification. So whether you have already pursued obtaining utility rebates or not, you'll hopefully be walking away with new insights that will help you offset your costs. I'd like to thank HydroFarm for making this webinar possible. HydroFarm is a leading distributor and manufacturer of controlled environment agricultural equipment and supplies, including high-intensity grow lights, climate control solutions, and growing media, as well as a broad portfolio of proprietary branded products. Before we begin, I have just a few housekeeping notes. We'll be leaving time at the end of the webinar for our speakers to answer as many questions as they can. You can submit your questions at any time during the webinar. If you would please do so using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen instead of the chat to make sure that our speakers see them. We will be recording the webinar and sending a link to the archive webinar to all registrants within about a week. While I'm introducing our speakers, you will see a quick poll that will pop up on your screen. If you would please take just a second to answer the poll question. With that, I'm pleased to welcome our speakers. Xander Yang is the VP at Durable Goods for HydroFarm. He has a multidisciplinary background in LED lighting design, manufacturing, testing, and marketing. He has been working in the controlled agriculture environment industry since 2015, with extensive and hands-on experience in CEA farm planning, design, operation, and its supplier ecosystem. Sean Brissett is the founder and CEO of WhatRebates, the go-to platform for maximizing utility and government incentives in the horticultural industry. His leadership has positioned the company as an award-winning trusted partner for CEA operators throughout Canada and the United States. I'm now pleased to turn things over to Sean. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're just going to be going over the 2025 State of the Utility Rebates for LEDs, controllers, and dehumidification. Most people are going to be asking basically just to give a little bit of a quick question of what are rebates or what are incentives? So we're just going to go through a quick rebate 101 for you guys just to understand what it is. A rebate or an incentive is a financial incentive offered by utilities or government programs to help offset the cost of energy efficiency upgrades. For growers, this means cash back for installing LED lighting, controllers, dehumidifications, and a lot more. Think of this as almost a utility paying you for using less power on their grid, because saving the energy is cheaper for them instead of having to build a new power station or anything like that. Rebates are definitely special because it opens the door for people to be able to actually either purchase fixtures or additionally help with their budgets in their forecasting or plan. So the rebates and incentives are a very important part in the process for a facility to be successful. Who offers rebates? Typically offered by local utility companies, state energy programs, or federally backed incentive programs. They're available in most US and Canadian regions, but programs vary widely. That is the biggest thing that we have to educate and get everyone to understand, is that in terms of amount, process, the eligibility requirements, I've said this a million times to people, every utility is like a snowflake. Not one of them will be the exact same. In most locations, such as Michigan, California, Oregon, Washington, there are some great locations and great utilities that do offer great incentives. But we'll get that in further discussions in the next few minutes. Whoops. So what types of equipment qualify? Horticultural LEDs, especially high efficacy fixtures, is one of the biggest and the lowest hanging fruit types of rebates that we can actually do for our customers right now, or your customers right now. Environmental controls, dehumidification systems, as well as HVAC, we can also build in if we are doing prescriptive. So that will allow us to actually get a larger rebate than rather just doing a prescriptive rebate. You guys may be asking, come on. You guys may be asking, how do the actual rebates work? There's many different layers with doing an incentive, but the big thing that you guys have to understand is that there's usually generically, there's two separate ways of doing certain things. One is a prescriptive rebate. That is basically a fixed dollar amount on a fixture or a tonnage amount on dehumidification or HVAC. The custom rebate is usually when we actually put something completely together. So it's an actual package that will send the utility and show the benefits of what all of these products are doing working together for us to be able to increase the actual dollar amount or the incentive to actually be able to be received back from the utility. The big things that you guys always have to know if you're working with us, with anyone else, 90% of the time, everything needs pre-approval before purchase or installation. If something gets purchased or something gets installed previous to us getting the reservation letter or getting the okay from the utility, it can create a lot of problems. And that's something that is definitely very, well, it happens every day with every utility probably. So one of the main keys that you guys always have to remember is if you guys are to utilize an incentive, always make sure that it starts at the beginning of the process, not after you guys have finally installed. For us to be able to get additional funds, usually with custom rebates, we'll definitely need the facility layouts, the utility bills, additional spec sheets. If there's HVAC or dehums, we'll need to actually do a power management service on there to actually see what we could actually be saving. Now, for you guys just to understand how the timelines and everything work, because that's one of the other thing is most people think that some rebates only take a few days. Again, it depends on which utility you're actually working with. Some may be working fast, some may be working slow, there might be holidays. We would like to say that after the project has initially been started, it usually takes 8 to 12 weeks to complete once we've actually submitted the paperwork. So in step one in our process is basically we start to do an estimate. We actually do 2 interviews initially with the client and find out if we actually have to do an actual in-person visit at first, or we can do that at a later process. But first we do the estimate. That's where we get the information that the project information is provided from the facility for us to actually understand what their story is, what they're actually wanting to do. So we can actually look at and see what we can actually help them with. If it's maybe it makes more sense for them to go with a lower wattage fixture. If it makes more sense to go with a higher efficacy fixture. All of these things come into the evaluation for us to actually then make a recommendation to the client. Once we actually have done that, we then submit the information. We will optimize the incentive and submit all the required documents for a rebate. A pre-inspection will then be scheduled. We then will schedule the pre-inspection with the utility to come in and double check that if it's a retrofit, this is how many fixtures it is. This is what brand it is, so on and so forth. After that inspection has been occurred, usually roughly, well, depending on again which utility, we will then get an approval letter. So once the submission process is complete, the utility will send a confirmation for approval. That is the green light for us to be able to move forward with the project, get the fixtures sold, get the fixtures shipped, get the fixtures installed. So step 4, of course, is the installation. The higher efficacy equipment for the projects are received and installed. And if it's a retrofit or if it's a new build, then of course it definitely depends on if you have to rewire the facility or if you have to do anything like that. That will always come into a case that we can also utilize if we are doing a scope of a project instead of just a prescriptive rebate. We can possibly get more funds back for the labor and everything like that. But that we'll discuss in a few minutes. After the install, an inspection is then set with the utility and ourselves. It would be a post-inspection at the facility, followed by, in some utilities, a monitoring system would be actually used. So with some utilities, we actually will get a monitor hooked up and it will compare what you used in the last year compared to what you're using the next year. And then the utility will offset that payment to you as one of the options of payments. Again, it depends on what type of utility you guys are working with or set up on. After the inspection is done, then of course the long-awaited payment is coming your way. The customer can redeem their rebate by cashing a check, depositing the electronic transfer, or using the store credit to make a purchase. There is some utilities that there's automatic in-store credits for buying LEDs. But if we're doing a regular rebate or an incentive, after the product has been installed and inspected, a check usually comes roughly about 60 days after the inspection has occurred. Why should growers care? Rebates can reduce upfront costs by up to 20 to 60%. In some cases, with some utilities, some fixtures can almost actually be free. Now, I know that's a scary word to a lot of people, but there are some utilities that definitely incentivize specific fixtures to be used, and it makes sense sometimes if it works with the facility to use those said products. A higher efficacy product is always a better product. 5 years ago, we were looking at 1.9 to 2.3 efficacy fixtures in the marketplace. Now, I would say that the baseline over the next year will be probably 3.0 to 3.5 will be the commonplace. All of these fixtures will continue improving, having a higher efficacy, so that basically we can be far superior than where any type of HPS fixture, which was on standard probably around a 1.9 to 1.8, 1.8 to 1.9 efficacy. This improves the ROI and shortens the payback periods for a majority of these locations. So in different ways that you could look at it, let's say that under canopy being used in SoCal Edison. The variance on the under canopy fee is just on that fixture is, let's say, $50 to $60 per fixture. The ROI on that, while in starting to use with other high bay lighting, first you're increasing your yields. Second, the fixture cost that is being able to be used as a rebate is being offset by that price. A under canopy fixture is not a $600 fixture, so it's something that's palatable. So it helps and makes it actually work for that customer to be able to afford it without putting out too much money. If you skip this and just purchase a fixture, the second main thing is that you just have to understand is that you're leaving money on the table. There's no reason for anyone to not use an incentive if it's not available. You're always trying to, especially in a facility when you're trying to make sure that every dollar is working for you, why not use what's available from the government or from your current utility or from a grant to be able to help you achieve your goal? It'll help you almost, well, you try to make sure that you're a little bit even more successful than what you were, because you are a little bit more profitable using these types of methods. With hydrofarm products, what you can actually see right now is here's a couple of examples of different utilities and what the actual rebate or incentive would actually be. So when you look at consumers in Michigan, the Photo TX 2800, that's an $800 incentive that you're able to get back. Now, of course, it depends on what the actual price of the product is, but there would be fairly minimal capital output that you would have to be able to say that that fixture could technically be free to that said customer, depending on where it's selling to and what market it is. But in consumers, that's a great incentive amount for a veg fixture, as well as if you look at ComEd in Illinois, it's $908 for the TX 2800 watt. So yeah, there's many different ways of looking at it, and sometimes it might be a utility might be only $25 or $100 or $200. All of that helps in the bigger picture. It allows you, if it's a new build, to maybe upgrade a little bit better on your dehum and HVAC. It helps you save initially when you're purchasing your lighting. All of these things are helping you to purchase higher, more efficient equipment that will thus make you more successful in the long run. As for the high efficiency dehumidifiers, the rebates types, of course, you've got prescriptive, which is basically 25 to $1 per pint a day. Custom is based on a calculated annual kilowatt saving that will allow you to, once the calculation is made. On most locations with utilities, a custom or scope of a project is usually better than a prescriptive in majority of the cases. But for when we get into dehumidifiers or anything like that, you always have to make sure that you're using the highest grade of equipment that meets the utilities approved efficiency standards, as well as they have to make sure that we and you understand the rules of engagement with the utilities. Some utilities will, of course, ask you to be continually using this dehum or this fixture for 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. But those are the things that we just have to help assist you guys to understand what the expectations of each utility is, so that you guys can make sure that there is never any issues after you've received your rebate check. The next big thing that is coming to light, no pun intended, is basically the networking lighting controls, the NLCs. With DLC now coming out with some specific standards, we're going to start seeing more and more different utilities offering different rebates available for it. There's some areas that currently right now that are offering 40 cents per watt controlled. So if you have 500 lights burning, you're then able to get 40 cents per watt controlled with that said controller. It can be a dramatic amount. So these are the things that we can utilize and help expand the facility, help them be able to probably also help with the irrigation, the dehumidification, all the environmental controls. So as DLC is continuing to come up with these standards, but help put it together a little bit more in a package, the utilities will start picking it up a little bit more for us to be able to work with them and start being able to offer more rebates with network lighting controls. The biggest thing that we also have to understand is if anyone listening to this has already done a rebate, many things can change almost by the week. DTE just announced a bonus of I think it was 20 or 30%. I'd have to double check in the last couple of weeks because they have certain numbers that they have to hit. They then contact the trade allies, which is ourselves, to be able to help bring more rebates or incentives to them so that they can actually make their goals. So the biggest thing is for you guys to always understand is that rebates are changing fast. New programs are rolling out as cannabis becomes a recognized high energy use industry, and the utilities are under pressure to meet efficiency goals. So that when we're looking at a different project, one utility might say their lighting incentive, it may be lowering by 5% or 5 cents, but their dehumidification might go up an extra 20 cents. So we are the ones that try to make sure for everyone to know what's actually going on with each utility to try and make it a little bit smoother for you guys, just to understand where everything's at. As for WhatRebates, we work great with a lot of different other rebate companies, but what basically has set us differently is basically a few quick and different things. We basically have efficient processing and quick verification. Our cost-effective services. We basically like to think of ourselves as almost a full concierge service because it's not just the lighting aspect, it's everything and then above. So whatever we can do to help that client or your client be able to maximize their dollar, that is what we're here for. We do free consultations, and the biggest thing for us is that we are completely open. Once you guys set up with Hydrofarm, you'll be able to access into our platform. And once we actually have the rebate able to be input our system, you'll then be able to see exactly what the dollar is, how many times we've contacted the customer, where we are actually in the status of actually getting it across the line to actually getting you a check. We have just under 100 different miniature milestones that we have to hit in our platform for us to be able to get this across the line for you. So this is one of the biggest things that we feel is very different than every other rebate company or incentive company out there, is that you guys can log in anytime and see truly where everything is currently at. The other thing that we do have to also mention then is we also do offer financing, just as a quick sales tool that we're able to actually assist certain purchases depending on the utility to be able to make sure that we can actually upfront cover the cost of the fixture so that there is no out of pocket for the actual client when they actually make the purchase. So if the customer is on a budget or anything that you're working with, we can possibly help that. We just need to vet the customer a little bit and see where what utility they're working with and see what we can actually offer them. Basically, the DIY, we try to make it easier for everyone so that it's easy for you guys to understand. We're always a phone call away. It's easy to lose out on a lot of money by checking just one of the boxes. We take a separate approach of taking an actual few steps back, looking at the whole situation. Sometimes it might make some more sense to be a prescriptive project or a custom project. Consider working with a rebate expert like us to avoid maximizing your return and avoid delays. The timing and accuracy with specific time for rebates is huge. If you're not able to, and like if there's a utility that says you have to have everything installed by the end of this month, we will make sure that we try and help you as much as possible to get there so that you could get the bonus that the utility is offering. We'll inform you of different changes and everything as you guys are in our platform. We're able to educate you guys. And if you guys are like, no, we're on a little bit of a budget break right now, we can contact you and tell you that if there's a bonus, this will then help open the door for you guys to be able to purchase more products with Hydrofarm. So here's a couple of QR codes for you guys to be able to look at, and then your local hydro farm retailer, they will actually be receiving a QR code over the next few weeks to be putting on to their stores, so that the lead can go into the list. We can then have a conversation with their customer, so that we can help educate them and get this across the line to make sure that they're putting as much money back into their pocket as possible. Um, Again, don't leave rebate dollars on the table. Let's get you paid. Any questions?
Thanks, Sean. Just a reminder to all of our registrants here today in the webinar, if you have specific questions, anything Sean said or your specific operations, if you can put those in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, we'll start answering those as soon as we get a few questions in. Can you see the Q&A box, Sean, or do you want me to read some to you?
I just grabbed one. What inspired you to start WhatRebate? And all right, so have one question. What inspired myself to start WhatRebates, and how has your vision evolved since then? Well, basically, I started with the lighting background previously, probably about 12 years ago. I had a company called Quantum Horticulture, um, and that was previously to any type of rebates or anything like that that was involved. So the lighting side has been, let's say, in my blood for the last 20 plus years. Um, I basically wanted to start the rebate side, just because I was seeing over the last 2 or 3 years, almost a shift in the marketplace, that I was seeing that every single light fixture out there, you had to have something else as a value add to be able to get the sale. That's why I said that if you're not using this type of incentive or rebate, you're not really getting the value that you could be, because it's just another tool to be able to add profitability to your company. So the way that everything worked out with what rebates is that I've been blessed with it. And the way that we've evolved since then is basically we've now started getting into, when we first started, it was just LED lighting. Then once we started peeling back the onion, it's understanding what we could do for all the CEA projects. And yeah, it's endless now. So if it's from battery packs to dehums to HVAC, but yeah, LEDs have been one of the major aspects that will always be something that has to have an incentive attached to it, because it's one of the biggest draws of power in the facility. So, Jeff, do you have specific program specs that you can share on SoCal Edison? Um, yeah, do you have that one available, Xander, quickly?
I would say, so for utility specific program, your best way for us to help you navigate through the process is actually scan the barcode, or, reach out to us afterwards so that we can assist you like on a one-on-one basis. Um, but I don't have the Southern California Edison's rebate programs handy.
Okay. Yeah, I can just pull up. There's multiple aspects that, yeah, we'd have to go through. Because yeah, it depends on if for SoCal, if it's single tier, double tier. There's multiple different aspects. So Jeff, if again, if you could just click on the QR code, or just type in your contact information, we can give you a call and do the interview, and then help educate you on the SoCal side. The next one is from Bryce. What specific utilities and rebate methods are most commonly used in Illinois, and how has the system changed in the past 5 years? Currently, right now, it's basically with Illinois. It is changing dramatically right now. So yeah, what's changed in the last 4 or 5 years, I would say that it's changing in good ways and bad ways. So with the incentives and everything that they're trying to utilize right now to get everything across the goal for this year, it's great. For next year, we don't know completely what they're going to be offering. So the bonuses and incentives there, it might be greatly changed. But once we have that inspection letter and approval letter, that will allow us to actually make sure that we actually have it in stone to get them going through. But for the specific methods that are most commonly used, again, we would have to listen to you of what is it a veg, is it in flower, is it from others? We'd have to ask you our usual checklist to go through before I actually open my mouth and just say what is most commonly used. Um, uh,
And Sean, I would say if you can rewind the slides, a couple of slides back, actually, we included the example for the ComEd utility in Illinois, using TX2 as example. So that may, um, who asked this? Bryce, right? Like this might give you a sense of what's available in there. There we go. ComEd.
yeah, so for ComEd, Illinois is 908 with the TX2 and 695 with the 680.
Yeah.
Um, so Rick Ardondo was asking what is the difference between hydrofarm and photobio? Xander, you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, sure. PHOTOBIO is a lighting manufacturer and brand, and Hydrofarm is the so Hydrofarm owns PHOTOBIO. That's the relationship. Um, and so yeah, so we're the one who's standing behind the scene, backing up the warranties and doing the product design for PHOTOBIO.
All right. Gustavo, with under canopy lights, you're adding power to your facility. Do they qualify for rebates? Great question. Certain utilities, yes, certain utilities, no. It really depends on some take a calculation of the top light and bottom light together. Some classify it as new construction just as a fixture and away you go. So yeah, there's definitely some honestly, not misunderstanding with the incentives and rebates, but there's going to be a lot more questions as more and more utilities start to offer the rebates for those said products. Because right now there's not too many white papers out there that people have been able to utilize with the manufacturers to be able to get a higher rebate amount. But yeah, some places have just said no because you're adding more power to the grid. So it really depends, again, which utility. But yeah, other, oh,
So we got a few more questions in. One person is asking about R&D tax credits were mentioned in a promo for the webinar. Could you touch a little bit more on these and who would be eligible and how to get those?
that's interesting. It was on this one. Okay. Yeah, for the R&D credit, basically there is a few different aspects of being able to write off the fixtures, depending on what the current facility is doing. If they are doing any type of testing that they want to be able to increase their terpene profile, increase their yields, we are able to put together a package that will allow them to offset their total, well, not their total, a certain amount of their taxes that they were expected to pay. That would then be able to offset the LED lighting purchase. or be able to depreciate the purchase amount to help them reduce their taxes. So that's something that that is another piece that we do assist with, and it is a large portion with the R&Ds being able to offset the fixture purchase or depreciate. But yeah, that's something that is more than 2 phone calls. We need to have a few hours and probably a couple different visits to that location to be able to properly service that customer.
Sean, there's a request for us to switch the slide back to where the QR codes are. I think there are a few folks trying to scan it.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you.
All right.
There we go.
Here's another question. If someone's on the fence about applying for a rebate or upgrading their lights, what would you tell them?
If they, oh, go ahead, Dunner.
I would say like they shouldn't be on the fence about applying for a rebate. That'll be my answer. Like if you are thinking about upgrading your facility, and if you're thinking about getting new LEDs or dehues, the point of this education webinar is to tell you guys, don't be on the fence about applying for rebates. Or even you're not sure about actually putting the actual application with your local utility companies, at least talk to someone that is not your local utility company, like us and WhatRebate team. Just talk to our. We can give you a pretty realistic estimate on what you should expect once you apply for the rebates with your utility company. So that'll be my first answer, right? Like, don't be on the fence for applying for rebates. You should apply. You should at least know how much is out there. Yeah, I guess the answer is, don't be on the fence. Come talk to us.
Andrew just asked which controller brands are the best for controller rebates. Honestly, it's technically all of them. It really depends on what it can control. And as long as it's network controlled, so you can actually dial in, those are, I don't want to say the first few little checks and balances that you have to make sure to be able to receive, but Trollmaster is available, and of course Rhythm, GrowLink, Argus, Priva, all of the usual larger facility ones. Usually you can also be able to access a rebate using those said controllers.
Yeah, I think the key word for control is networked controls.
Okay.
If you use a mechanical timer by
Not so much.
plugging it on the wall, you are not going to get any rebates. The utility company's angle is that is your facility equipped to automatically save energy through that networked controls, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean.
No, yeah, no, it's yeah, there's the network, of course, is the big thing, but at the end of the day, it's how many pieces of the puzzle can it take care of and how much more efficient is it? All different rebates, even if it's a custom project, at the end of the day, we can usually push and ask. It doesn't always happen, but as long as we can show them that we are able to save money at this facility, it usually means some type of check is being able to come back.
And in that sense, I would say, based on availability and also proven results and existing market share, I will go for Trollmaster.
Yep. Okay, so Dundee, you want to answer the next one, or?
I have a question here for you, Sean. You talked about dehumidification equipment needing to meet utility approved standards. Can you still apply for rebates if your equipment has already been installed?
There's some utilities that you can go retroactively. I don't want to throw a percentage of 99% are going to say no, but there are some utilities that let you go retroactive. What usual basis is if you're able to show an invoice that the product has been purchased, depend on the utility. Some utilities, I believe, go up to 18 months. But if you do have one that is 3 months old, and you're doing the update of the LEDs, we can discuss with the utility and see if we can just slide it in. Most utilities are workable. They do understand that certain things have to happen at certain times, especially with different utilities starting to understand what a perpetual harvest is. They're expecting everyone just to have all the lights in 2 weeks. It's like, that's not going to happen. So yeah, it's really the utilities are also learning about CEA as well. So it's the biggest time of them also learning, well, it's not just everything's running at 18 hours and 24 hours, but we are running 8, 12, 14, 16 rooms. And as we're trying to monitor the grid, what makes more sense on both sides for them to be able to actually get them installed and be able to get that final check. So yeah, it's sometimes we just have to do 2 or 3 different applications at one location instead of just doing one at once, so that the customer can get the funds back a little bit faster. Jeff asked where WhatRebate's HQ is located. It's in beautiful Puerto Vallarta. Basically, I sold one of my companies about 10 years ago, and I started that one up roughly about 3 years ago.
I think there's a question for Xander here. What's something clients are surprised to learn when upgrading to Hyder Farm's high efficiency fixtures?
I'm surprised to learn. So not sure I understand the angle of this question.
That's something clients ask.
No surprises. Equipment and products meeting expectations.
There you go.
There's another one here. Do you see rebates becoming more available or less over time? Like, will they go away?
And I you have to look at it almost like the T5 and the T8 lamps back in the day before we switched to LEDs in Costco's, shopping malls, and everything like that. So I think that there will always be incentives, but if you're looking at lighting technologies, it used to be HPS. It then transferred to CMH now, and then it tried for plasma. There's certain things and certain technologies that will continue to change, and especially with each utility, I think that LEDs for the next 10 years, yes, there's always going to be rebates available. Will it be better or worse each year with each utility? We don't know. As long as we can continue to make products that are a higher efficacy and more efficient, that then will make sure that it leaves the door open for a reason for incentives to occur. Again, HPS 1.8 to 1.9, and if the LEDs in the marketplace over the next 6 months are going to be 3.0 to 3.5, it's something that is definitely going to be open for if someone wanted to hit 2000 par for some reason, they're able to achieve that with a lot less wattage. So yeah, I think that most utilities will continue always doing rebates. I think more will become more custom than prescriptive, just as budgets and everything will be a little bit more tighter. But I think that definitely incentives and rebates are here to stay.
Maybe one or two more questions before we finish up here. Someone said, I heard there are budgets that utility companies have, and if you wait too long, you could be out of luck in getting rebates. Is that true? And is there a time? Is there a
Every day.
time? Okay.
That's one of the reasons why we like to say call us, because we usually like to think that we have the finger on the pulse of where everything sits. But yeah, there's certain utilities that have reservation letters, and are like, okay, well, you've got 1 year to get this installed. Others are like, you have 3 months to get this installed. The big difference is get the information to us as fast as possible so we can get that reservation letter, so that if you're trying to do a 200 or $300,000 purchase for LEDs this year, it could be gone and there's no reservation letter left, and you're now actually paying for those fixtures with no discount coming back from the utility. So yes, there has been many different places in which most utilities are changing to this model of a reservation letter is needed. With that, it gives a little bit more grace, a little bit more benefit of knowing that that money is reserved for that said project. There's been some utilities that haven't used that type of method and just send in and expect a check to come in. Those days I think are pretty much gone. The reservation letter to make sure that the money is reserved for you is in place, and I believe is what's needed. Just to make sure that there is no hiccups of, oh, there's an extra $20 million in reserves that they never knew about in December. No, try and get them in as soon as fast as possible so that we can get that reservation letter and make sure that the money is there for you guys.
Yeah. And in general, there's no utility company is gonna be working with a unlimited budget, right? Like,
Correct.
they all have like a set amount of budget for energy rebates for this fiscal year. So, I mean, depending on your utility company's fiscal year, it could be, I think most of them are um, the same as a calendar year. So end of Q4 is the end of the fiscal year. There might be some who is, end of Q1 of the fiscal year. But regardless, when their fiscal year ends, the budget will very likely be drained, depending on the amount of application. So that's actually one of the reasons that we choose, mid-year to set up this seminar. Because we're in June, we have 6 months left before the end of this year. Some utilities budget maybe even running out when you are in Q4. So don't wait.
Well, no, it's yeah, like in Oregon and Oklahoma, we currently have that issue right now. There's sometimes that we need to be able to get some things pushed through, but when there's no money, there's no money. We have to wait for it to reset the next year for for the reserves to be able to be ready, for it to be able to be utilized again.
Yep. Yep. Supply demand. Oklahoma is definitely a hotspot.
Yes, it is.
There anything else, Sean or Xander, before we close up here?
I don't have anything else. I think just, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and just, share what we know about rebates and what utility company has to offer when it comes to our growers. Just, happy to be here, and also thank Sean for doing this with us. And I think there's one question they're asking about how do we start. That's the slide that you're looking at. So either form work, whether it's hydrofarmcommercial.com or photobio.com, this barcode will take you straight to, I think we have 5 questionnaire. It's a really simple questionnaire. It won't take you more than 30 seconds for you to fill up. Or Hydrofarm has always been working closely with all the Hydrofarm retailers out there. So feel free also to just walk into your local hydro shop and just ask them about Hydrofarm and PHOTOBIO's rebate program, whichever you feel comfortable.
No, and for myself, I just want to say thank you for everyone for listening in. And yeah, the two big reminders is get your information over to any type of rebate specialist as fast as possible for you to get that reservation, because yeah, there's dollars on the table that you guys just don't want to lose. We can go through all of the red tape for you and just make sure that's a lot more streamlined for you, a little less gray hair. And yeah, it makes everything a lot easier on both sides.
Okay, well, we are out of time and questions, unfortunately. But I would like to thank everyone who took the time to join us today. And I'd like to again thank Hydrofarm for making today's webinar possible. And I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Xander and Sean for sharing their insights on this very important topic. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great one.
Thank you.